House Democrats are threatening to subpoena Attorney General William Barr if he refuses to testify this week. AG Barr had been set to appear before the House Judiciary Committee on Thursday, but the agreement fell apart over the format of the hearing. Democrats want to allow the committee's legal counsel to question the Attorney General, but the Justice Department is pushing back, saying, quote, members of Congress should be the ones doing the questioning. You may remember last fall, Senate Republicans brought in Arizona sex crimes prosecutor Rachel Mitchell to question Christine Blasey Ford about her sexual assault allegations against now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. So far, House Democrats have already subpoenaed 3 current or former members of the Trump administration, including former White House counsel Don McGahn. But don't expect to see these people in Congress anytime soon. Last week, President Trump told reporters, quote, "We are fighting all the subpoenas." Here now with more is CBS News White House reporter Catherine Watson. She has an article out on CBSNews.com titled "The Subpoena War Between the White House and Capitol Hill is Only Getting Started." Catherine, thank you so much for being with us. What do House Democrats want to find out from these current and former White House staffers? And why does President Trump want to fight these subpoenas?
Of course, Tanya. Well, the main thing, or at least one of the key things that Democrats are trying to find out now is more about the behind the scenes that we learned from the Mueller Report. Now, of course, as you mentioned, Don McGahn, the former White House counsel, has been called to testify, subpoenaed to testify. But Democrats are really trying to find out more about what happened behind the scenes. We understand from Mueller's report that the president directed Don McGahn to fire special counsel Robert Mueller in some shape or form. However, he could accomplish that. Democrats want more answers. The White House and McGahn have not given any answer on whether McGahn will indeed comply with any request. Moving forward, it's still up in the air as to whether the president might invoke executive privilege, which is a protection that is afforded to the president. It's up for debate, but that the president could invoke, the White House could invoke, if they decide they absolutely do not want him to testify.
Yes, we do understand from Kellyanne Conway that is still on the table. Now, in addition to those 3 already facing subpoenas, you also list senior policy advisor Stephen Miller as someone who could face a subpoena in the future. Why is that? And is it likely that the White House would allow him to comply?
Sure. Well, that's something that we're just waiting to see now. The White House has declined a request for a voluntary interview. He was requested, Democrats did request for him to appear before Congress, but the White House said no. So now the next possible step is for the House Oversight Committee to issue that subpoena, Tanya. But it's really going to be an intricate battle. Democrats know that they have to wade through the waters carefully. The White House is going to push back. The president said that they are fighting all of the subpoenas. Now, if the White House does go ahead if the House Judiciary or House Oversight Committee does go ahead with a subpoena, or if any other committee does go ahead with a subpoena, then that battle is likely a legal battle that would head to the courts. And that's really what we're talking about over the next series of months here, is what has been a political battle could very quickly turn into a legal battle that could be handed over to the courts.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that potential legal battle then. What kind of legal fight can we expect to see over these subpoenas? What would each side argue?
Sure. Well, the most likely thing is that the president is going to claim executive privilege, which is something that isn't enshrined in the Constitution, but certainly does have some precedent. There have been conversations and cases dating back to Nixon, even before Nixon. There is some understanding that executive privilege, communications, interactions with the president, certainly among his most senior advisors, is something that could very well be protected. So Democrats, and most likely through the courts, are going to have to make a legal argument that there is a public interest at stake here, and that is what we're most likely to see, that the Democrats might argue through the court system that the public deserves to know this information, and that in some instances that need to know might be more important and carry more weight, more importance than the privacy of the president's communications.
Right. And of course, these legal battles are very likely to slow down any of these investigations that Democrats are doing right now. So if they are not successful with their subpoenas at the end of these long legal battles that are, as you say, likely to occur, do they have any other options to continue their investigations into the president?
Well, there are a few. Now, subpoenas are something that once Congress issues those subpoenas, if those are declined, then that would likely head to the court system if Democrats chose, just to kind of clarify that process. Another thing that could be done is possibly holding anyone who refuses to testify in contempt of Congress. Now, we've seen that being a possibility for one former White House official who has been in charge of the security clearance process in the past, now works at DOD. There has been talk of possibly scheduling a vote in the House Oversight Committee to hold him in contempt of Congress. But that is really just a political tool, Tanya.
Right, because what are the repercussions of being held in contempt of Congress?
Very little. Now, is that something that could eventually be fought out in court? Potentially, but Congress really has few options, and so it really is likely going to come down to the courts. And as one constitutional scholar who I spoke with recently told me, the longer this process is drawn out, the better that looks for the White House. President Trump can say, they're just trying to essentially stop the legislation that we're trying to move through. They're trying to stop my agenda. And so the more time that passes, the momentum that could potentially be lost there. So in some ways, time is on the side of the administration. So Democrats are looking to be very strategic in the way they go about this.
So stalling seems to be a winning move for the White House. All right, Catherine Watson at the White House, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.